Hey there, welcome to Mark in the Park, the podcast. I'm your host, Mark Milow, speaker, storyteller, and healthcare advocate. And this is the place for personal reflections, stories about mindset, hobbies, and purpose. And a reminder that life doesn't stop at a diagnosis. In fact, often the real journey begins after. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mark in the Park podcast. And today, I am joined by the lovely Rebecca Wallings. And Rebecca, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about what you do, but I just have a little story here. You and I met at a conference in Las Vegas with the Parkinson Foundation, and I sat in the audience and listened to you and your segment in awe because it was so awesome. And you were announced as a researcher, and with that, I'm going to say you're way more advanced than me and cranially, mentally. But Rebecca, well, number one, thank you for coming on the show because, again, you're amazing. But number two, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what it is you do?
Oh, yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me. And likewise, when I met you at the Parkinson Foundation Clinical Conference in Vegas, and I got to hear your talk, I was so excited to have the chance to just meet with you at that conference. But then when I also found out that you had a podcast and I could be on it, I was like, I need to be on this guy's podcast and chat with him. You're amazing. So I'm now an assistant professor at Indiana University. When me and Mark met, I was a senior postdoctoral fellow in the lab of Milow at IU. I've recently been promoted to assistant professor in the Department of Neurology at IU and Department of Microbiology and Immunology. So I now have my own lab, and my lab specializes in trying to understand the role of the immune system, specifically the role of an aging immune system in Parkinson's disease, and how we can potentially leverage the immune system to develop new therapeutic targets and treatments for Parkinson's.
That is amazing. That's so awesome. And listening to your presentation there, I remember I had goosebumps because as a researcher, you think about things that the rest of us don't think about, and it's just great to hear. But first, a little question for you. So, what led you to get into research in the first place? I mean, you're going to university. You're like, hey, I want to figure stuff out that nobody's ever figured out before. I mean, what makes you go down that road?
Yeah, so I had a slightly novel path compared to some others. Most people kind of go through maybe a biochem, neuroscience undergrad. I actually did my undergraduate in psychology. Obviously, back in the UK, I did my undergraduate in psychology with the intention of actually becoming a child psychologist. My eldest nephew has pretty severe autism. He's 18, his nonverbal has some pretty severe behavioral issues. And it was a personal reason, obviously, that I wanted to end up studying child developmental psychology. And it was through my psychology degree that I kind of discovered the world of neuroscience. And I was like, wow, the brain's really interesting. The brain's really cool.
Yes.
And from my psychology degree, I then decided I wanted to divert and go more down the neuroscience route. So I did my master's in clinical neuroscience at UCL. And that was when I kind of got my first taste of kind of traditional wet lab research. And it was that experience wherein I had my first kind of 6-month wet lab research project that really made me realize that it's almost like playing detective is the way that I like to describe it. You have a series of unknowns, and it's your job to try and figure out the missing pieces, right?
Right.
And you have a series of bits of information, and you kind of have to kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And it's kind of that I absolutely love about science and experimental design and deriving different hypotheses and testing them. I think it's so interesting. And I happened to do a research project in a lab at UCL that was focused on Parkinson's disease. And just from a kind of biological perspective, this might sound like an odd thing to say, but it's a very interesting disease, just biologically speaking, just to read about and to understand, just physiologically. It's a very interesting disease, the different mechanisms that we think are at play. It made me really excited to understand what was going on. And then I obviously went on to go do my PhD. I was at the University of Oxford, and I was at the Oxford Parkinson's Disease Centre. And that's when I really was immersed into the world of Parkinson's research, and actually was able to interact with individuals with Parkinson's disease, and the different individuals who play such vital roles in Parkinson's research, all the way from, at the bench, wet lab based biochemists, bioinformaticians, the geneticists, the physicians, the carers, everyone who plays such a massive role. I realized that this is just such a wonderful kind of village to be a part of. And we're all just kind of cogs in this huge system, trying to meet this end goal that is hopefully one day curing Parkinson's.
Wow. Now that's an amazing journey that you went on there. Now you mentioned living in the UK. You grew up in the UK, right?
I did, yeah.
And do you mind if I ask where?
So I'm originally from Essex, which is, for those of you who don't know UK geography very well, it's just east of London, basically.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of those places. I don't know a lot of European geography, but Essex is one place I actually knew on the map. Proud of myself. There you go.
I'm always really surprised with how many Americans know about Essex. It's so random.
It seems like, I think it's because, like, as a kid, like I watched a lot of like, frankly, like Robin Hood and all these other movies, right? And Essex was actually a place that was named, like, in movies frequently when I was a kid. So
Right.
it's like, where is this place, right? So, I don't know. Well, of course, that coming from a guy, I've got a movie poster right to my side. I'm a movie nut, so
Yeah.
my life is lived through movies. Sometimes I talk to my son in movie lines, but I digress. So, okay. So you've got your doctor. You get into this world of research. Now, when we were talking in Vegas at the conference, what I picked up about your research was kind of like you were going kind of a different direction that other researchers were going. Does that make sense? And am I describing that correctly? Because as you were describing what you did, I think the analogy I used when I was asking you about it was in World War Z, where the Israel was the only country that knew that they were actually zombies. Why is that? Well, because when everybody's going this way, the 10th man in Israel always has an obligation to look the other direction and say, maybe it could be this direction. And
Yeah.
like, that seems like what you're doing is you're looking in the opposite direction of what a lot of research is going. Am I describing that correctly?
I think so. I'm definitely not going to say that I'm the only person that is
Yeah.
thinking about Parkinson's this way. But I'm potentially, let's say I'm in a minority. Let's put it that way instead. I'm not going to say that I'm the only one, because I'm not that important. But just to put it into context, so when I was doing my PhD, let's take it even another step back. So for a really long time, over the last like 3 or 4 decades, Parkinson's disease and Parkinson's research has been very brain centric and very neuron centric. And the role of the immune system and inflammation in the 90s, early 2000s, inflammation really was seen as more of just a byproduct of the degeneration that was happening within the central nervous system, right? So at postmortem, we could see that there was inflammation in the brains of individuals that have Parkinson's disease, but a lot of neurologists and a lot of researchers would dismiss it as just, well, of course there's inflammation because there's cell death in the brain. Of course there's going to be inflammation. So for a really long time, inflammation was just seen as a byproduct of the degeneration, right? And I was in a PhD lab who, I don't think my old PIs will hear me say this, but he at the time was kind of that camp a little bit. He definitely didn't think of inflammation as having a causative role in Parkinson's disease. And there were a couple of us in the lab that kind of pushed back a little bit. But ultimately, all of the projects and most of the focus of the lab was very neuron-centric. And I always knew going through my PhD that the next stage of my training for my postdoctoral fellowship, I wanted it to be more focused on the immune system and inflammation, because honestly, that's where I saw the field. That's where I saw the field going. You could see from the research that was coming out from the genetic side of things, the epidemiological side of things, there was just more and more mounting evidence to suggest that inflammation and the immune system was playing a role in this disease, not just as a byproduct, but actually contributing to the disease in some way. So when I was at a conference, actually in I think it was my second or third year of my PhD, it was the first time I met Milow, who is now my colleague, was my postdoc PI. She was at the time based at Emory University, and she gave I think she was the keynote speaker. She might have been I'm pretty sure she was one of the keynote speakers. And I just absolutely fell in love with her research. And she gave this really wonderful talk about the role of the gut-brain axes in Parkinson's disease and the role of gut inflammation. And it was the first time that I'd seen someone talk so passionately about inflammation outside of the brain and how gut inflammation and systemic inflammation could be contributing to neuroinflammation. And I knew I had to talk to her, and I knew I wanted to, even if not work with her, just I needed her to know who I was, you know?
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up obviously doing a postdoc with her. So in 2019, I moved to the States and started my postdoc with her at Emory University. And I slowly kind of transitioned my training from more of a neuron-centric. My PhD was more focused on lysosomal biology in neurons, and I kind of slowly transitioned my training to be much more neuroimmunology and inflammation focused. And it was during my postdoc training with Milow that I started to think more about kind of big picture, what is the immune system doing in Parkinson's disease, and kind of what is the niche that I want to kind of carve out as my own research program to kind of take with me when I gain independence. And I started thinking about one of the most talked about is whenever you read a paper about in a journal about Parkinson's disease, one of the first lines in an introduction is always like, age is the greatest risk factor for Parkinson's disease, right? But yet all of the preclinical models that we use for Parkinson's disease, the mice, they were all young. They were all young mice because it's really expensive to age mice, and a lot of the transgenic models that we use, they develop phenotypes quite young because we're overexpressing a lot of different genetic mutations, so their phenotypes are really, really aggressive. And that irked me a little bit, because I was like, well, the immune system of a young mouse is very, very different to an immune system of an old mouse. And it's the same for humans. Take a 10-year-old's immune system, it's going to look really different to an immune system of a 65-year-old's, right?
Right.
So I started thinking about the role of an aging immune system in Parkinson's disease more so, and the role of chronic inflammation and how we could potentially have been, I'm not going to say thinking about it wrong, but maybe there was some missing pieces of the puzzle. So when people started taking inflammation a little bit more seriously with Parkinson's disease, it was noted that there's more inflammation in the brain, in the CSF, in the cerebral spinal fluid of individuals with Parkinson's disease. There's more inflammation in the circulating blood, in the plasma. In preclinical models of Parkinson's disease, there seems to be upregulated cytokines as well. So it seems to be that there seemed to be more inflammation. So kind of the whole field just thought, okay, there's just more inflammation and we need to suppress the inflammation and we'll probably fix it, right? But the problem was we were doing all of that in young mice. And the problem is when you look at an age system, it's not as simple as just if there's more inflammation, it means the immune system's more active. Because quite often what happens as we age, our immune system actually becomes more suppressed and dysregulated. There's a whole plethora of different factors that go into this, but essentially there's this fundamental remodeling of the immune system as we age, and two processes that happen are termed immune cell exhaustion and immunosenescence. Essentially, they're driven by different things, but essentially what the overall impact of both of them is that you have a suppression and an inability of the immune system to respond efficiently to immune challenges, despite the fact that there is low-grade chronic inflammation at baseline. So a lot of the therapeutic strategies that we've been hypothesizing and been developing over the last kind of 5-10 years, when they kind of go through phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials, it's no surprise that they're not potentially hitting the mark because they're trying to suppress potentially an already suppressed immune system.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Wow. That sounds so I mean, when you say it the way you say it, that sounds logical because yes, you about the younger mice instead of older mice. Aging mice is expensive, but then about a immune system that's suppressed already is a problem, and that just makes, I don't know, this just underscores the issue, right? I don't know, it makes a lot of sense to me, but then again, I will say too, you're again way up here, and I'm asking you to mark it down for me because
I'm really not even way up there. I'm like here.
no, but this is fantastic. I mean, because we talk about, we want Parkinson's research. We as people with Parkinson's, I mean, we want research to be done, right? Well, what research is being done, right? I mean, because we want results, because we want action, because we want a cure, but there has to be targeted, there has to be results-driven research. And one of the things that John Lair, the CEO of the Parkinson's Foundation, has mentioned is that he will only invest money in research that he sees benefits coming from. And the fact that they believe in your research is a big thing. I mean, I may not understand all the P's and the Q's, but the fact that they want to support your research tells me that you're going in the right direction. You got some good stuff going. You know what I mean? That's amazing.
No, absolutely. It's obviously being able to secure grants is the name of the game, right? I have to be able to secure grants to keep the lights on of my lab, right? But as well, being able to secure those kinds of grants from the Parkinson's Foundation, especially so for those of you who might not know, the Parkinson's Foundation offer a numerous different grants for various different career stages. The one that I was very fortunate to be awarded is one called the Launch Award, which is a Transition to Independence Award. It's awarded to individuals who are in the last couple years of their postdoctoral training, who have the intention of transitioning to an independent role and starting their own lab. The structure of the grant is they give you 2 years worth of grant funding to finish your postdoctoral training. And then once you've finished your postdoctoral training and have secured an independent position, you then they'll then give you 2 years to support the first 2 years of your independent research program. So that's obviously just started for me. And it is extremely validating knowing that not just the reviewers who obviously read your grants and give them scores and give them like scientific feedback, but just the Parkinson Foundation as well and their scientific review board, and obviously like Jim and John, that they, they see the potential and they understand my vision. It's validating knowing that, I'm not crazy. My thoughts are actually, they make sense. Other people believe it as well.
Absolutely. And I will tell you this too. Just on a side note, as I was talking to other people about, I came back from that conference with a huge impact personally. There was so many good things going on there.
Right.
And so I was dialoguing with people afterwards. Anytime your name came up, it was like, oh, she's amazing, isn't she? What she's doing, blah, blah, blah. Or it was along the lines of, oh, she's amazing. She's such a sweet person. Whether it was professionally or personally, didn't matter. You were like this person that was highly revered by everybody, including John, by the way. Because I'm in PPAC, which is the people,
Right.
the Parkinson's Advisory Council, for those that are listening, don't know. But on the PPAC committee, I rub elbows with John quite a bit. He's in our monthly meetings. We have in-person meetings occasionally. But just everybody was saying so many wonderful, positive things. And I thought to myself, yeah. So I wasn't wrong, because when I met you in Vegas, I thought that's who I thought you were, and you are who I thought you were. You're an amazing researcher, but you're also a wonderful person. And I'll share this story too. We got off to a good foot in the sense of I hugged you without even trying. And so for our listeners, I was going up on stage to do my presentation, and there was somebody that was really supportive of me while I was there. I was having some trouble with my voice that week. When my speech therapist actually approached me afterwards to talk about that. But I'm heading up to the stage, and sitting at a table was, I thought the person that had been supporting me all week and was, gung-hoing me like, let's do this, Mark. And so as I'm walking up to the stage to do my presentation, I reach over and I give her a hug. Unwittingly, it was not her, it was you. Because I got up on stage, and as I was looking around, the woman that I thought I was hugging was on the other side of the arena. So it was like, oh my God, who did I hug? And as we discussed before the podcast here, it was you. And so I did hug you. So that was a great way to get off on that foot. So there you go.
It was a wonderful way to break the ice, to get to know each other. But like I said to you before, it wasn't awkward in any way, because it was one of those moments where I thought that I had kind of misplaced you, or so, like we'd previously met and I'd forgotten, and I felt so rude and I felt terrible, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like I've met him and I've forgotten. How could I have forgotten Mark? This is awful. And it turns out I'd actually never met you.
No. Oh God, I love that story. Well,
Good story.
I tell you now, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When does a joke become a dad joke?
Oh gosh. Oh, it's going to be something to do with like a son, or like, I don't know.
When it becomes apparent.
When it becomes apparent.
There you go. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. I have this. There we go. There we go. It was a little late, but hey, I never get that
Yeah.
on time. Anyways, there you go. So, um, I love that. So, um, along those lines, I know. Thank you for bearing with me and putting up with me. I just, if you guys see me on social media, dad jokes are very important to me. But, anyways, so when we talk about Parkinson's, this is my today's version of Mark My Words. When we talk about Parkinson's, and I started saying this a few minutes ago, but we want to know stuff is being done. We want to know that research is being done. We want to know that action is taking place. The fact that the bill to end Parkinson's was passed, but the committee's still not put together over a year later is frustrating a lot of people, and inactivity frustrates people, and we donate money, and where's it going? And everybody wants to know. And these are all good things. It's accountability to the Parkinson's community and to those that are serving the Parkinson's community through research stuff. That's all good stuff. But we want to know that it's going in a good way. And when I started working, let me back up. As I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, I was supporting the Michael J. Fox Foundation with fundraising and things like that. But I soon became aware that the organization that helped me in my current condition with Parkinson's, trying to figure things out and progress through this diagnosis process, that was doing that and keeping an eye to research at the same time, was the Parkinson's Foundation. And I'm not here to, tout or blow or anything like that, but I give them so much credit for being so focused on multiple things and doing both things, I think, as well as any organization can. No organization is perfect, but they are supporting research, but at the same time, the research for the future, but they're also supporting the people with Parkinson's now in the here and now. And I love that. And that's something that I believe very strongly in, because I believe, we mentioned John Lair, the CEO of the Parkinson's Foundation. I believe he's led some great leadership to the foundation and has given some wonderful focus, which I absolutely love. So that's my focus today on Mark My Words. But I also want to touch on something else. The Parkinson's Foundation has partnered strategically with the Parkinson's UK, and I found that fascinating. And after that, I started reading and finding out some more things. Parkinson's UK is doing some really cool stuff. And what has the UK got going on that we don't have it here in America? Because it seems like there's just some good stuff happening, not only in the UK, but in Europe and stuff like that. But I just found that fascinating. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. What is it exactly that you think? What exactly is happening in the Parkinson's UK that you think is not happening here?
Well, the Parkinson's Foundation partnered with the Parkinson's UK because they felt that's where there was a good focus on research. There's a lot of things going on there, but of course they're still investing in research here as well. So don't get me wrong. But I was just and please, because you're from the UK, I have an American attitude. Like, all good stuff comes from the U.S. Okay, I was born and raised here, right? And so I was happy to hear that they partnered with Parkinson's UK, because in one way, it lends credibility to a global focus on Parkinson's. It's not just well, yeah, here in the UK, here in the US, we're focusing on Parkinson's. You guys over there do your stuff. I love that crossing of the bridge and saying, let's work together on this. Does that make sense? It's not that,
No,
that good things aren't happening here, but it's like, well, like you said originally, about all the different people that are working on cure for Parkinson's. You're all working together in different avenues in different ways, but with the same goal. Let's find a cure, right? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I think having these international collaborations is more important than ever, because I think right now, not just in the Parkinson's field, but in the Alzheimer's field as well, it is becoming increasingly more clear that these diseases are heterogeneous. We are not going to have one treatment that is going to be one size fits all.
Yes.
This people that it's okay. You're just you get it. You agree. I know. Yes. We need to have these. We need to have these. These across the ocean collaborations, big international collaborations, because we need to have access to big diverse populations with individuals of different genetic backgrounds, different racial ethnicities, different environmental exposures, because that's how we will begin to understand how heterogeneous these diseases are and how personalized these therapies need to be, right?
Yes.
And especially when it comes to the way that I think about the role of the immune system and the role of, I typically refer to it as like an accelerated aging of the immune system. It's what kind of my overarching big hypothesis is with a lot of these neurodegenerative diseases is that essentially it's just the immune system is aging at a much quicker pace than it should be, essentially. And the rate in which it ages is very heterogeneous from one person to another. No aging of the immune system, aging of any organ, aging of any individual is not linear. We don't just all age at the same rate, right? It's all driven by compounding factors combined with genetics, environment, genetics and environment. And in the immunology field, they typically refer to it as your immunobiography, that being your lifetime exposure to a whole host of different immune challenges, pathogens, environmental exposures. Just your immune biography drives essentially how heterogeneous your immune system and your aging of the immune system could be. And having these big international collaborations will help us understand how these different factors could potentially be driving this heterogeneous immune phenotypes that we observe, and how that potentially drives, the clinical heterogeneity of Parkinson's that we observe from patient to patient. Is that what underlies the clinical heterogeneity? Maybe. But I guess that's what I want to try and figure out. I'm asking you. That's my job.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I have one more question for you. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Do I answer optimistically, or because I've had a bit of a long day, do I be pessimistic? No. I'm a new PI, and anyone who's been on that journey of, starting their own lab and building their own lab from the grounds up can appreciate that the first however many months, couple years is kind of like grueling work, because all of a sudden it's kind of just feels like it's you, and it's just you alone trying to figure out everything. But so I feel like in 5 years' time I'll probably just be a puddle on the floor, just tired. But
Fair enough.
if I answer a little bit more optimistically, because I am optimistic, I am optimistic about Parkinson's research as a whole, and I am very optimistic about my own research program and, my lab that is going to grow over the next 5 years. In 5 years' time, I will still be an early career researcher. 5 years into being a PI is still considered pretty early on into your career. But I would like to think that I would have a sustainable research program with a decent amount of funding behind me, that, I'm able to breathe a little bit more and the pressure's off a little bit. I've got a solid team that I have kind of helped nurture and build, who is very passionate about the research that we do, who is scientifically curious, who are passionate about the questions that we're asking, that care about the science that we're doing and ultimately want to help the individuals. And ultimately, my end goal is not just to do really cool science, but it's also to obviously generate science that is going to help patients, but also to build and nurture kind of the next generation of scientists who are going to, go that even one step further to help patients. And whether that be at the bench, in academia, in industry, in policy making, whatever it is they decide to do, my role now is not just a scientist, but it's a mentor. And I love being a mentor. And I'm very excited to see in 5 years' time the team that I've been able to kind of build and kind of curate to help support my research mission. So that was a very long-winded answer.
That's a great answer, because I believe you would be a fantastic mentor. And so it'll be exciting to see where that team is in 5 years, because your answer wasn't just about yourself. It was about the progress, about the research and your team. And I love that. And I see you as somebody that's building for the future. So that's a great answer. So thank you.
Because to me, I mean, it has to be. And I was very, very fortunate to have done my training with Milow during my postdoc, because I think I definitely had that kind of attitude instilled in me from her, because she has the exact same attitude, 100%.
Wonderful. Okay, it's that time. The choppers are coming in. It's the time of the show where we call Get to the Chopper.
Get to the chopper!
So the helicopters are coming to extract us. We're going to go home and sleep in our beds tonight and just be back to normal. What is it you want to leave with our listeners today? What's the one thing you want them to remember from the show? It could be something you've talked about or something you haven't even talked about, but what's the one thing you want listeners to walk away with?
I would like listeners to walk away with the fact that Parkinson's is not just a brain disease. It's a whole body immune aging problem. At least that's the way that my lab views it. And that's how we kind of frame it to address our research questions. And when it comes to potential therapeutics in the future, therapeutics are going to have to be personalized, and it's not going to be a one size fits all. And I do think the field is definitely moving in this direction. Both Parkinson's and the Alzheimer's field as well is moving in this direction. We are no longer just thinking about these diseases and the therapeutics solely focusing on immunotherapies and targeting protein aggregates.
Right.
We're also thinking about, a more holistic approach to targeting these diseases. And part of that is thinking about targeting the immune system. And it should not just be about immune suppression and suppressing that immune system, but we should think about rejuvenating the immune system instead, and kind of reinvigorating and restoring the balance and function of the immune system.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So for our listeners, if they wanted to get a hold of you, is there a way that they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So I actually kind of purged all my social media this year because I needed a bit of a mental health break.
That's a smart thing to do.
Yes, you can still find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Rebecca Wallings. I do not have Twitter or X anymore. But if you would like to email me, I am more than happy to be reached by email. You can find me at Beckwall, it's BECKWALL @iu.edu. Happy to respond to emails or messages via LinkedIn. They're probably the best ways to find me.
Excellent. Well, I have to say, Rebecca, again, you are a light and a light shining here in this world. My version of get to the chopper, the one thing I want people to remember today is give a hug. Even if it's the wrong person, it's a good
Even
thing
if
to do.
it's
So
the wrong person.
just get out there and give hugs. Just let's cross some social barriers and just give a hug. It'll be a great thing. So,
Because who
but
knows, it could lead to a really wonderful friendship.
absolutely, absolutely. And I am telling you, Rebecca, if you want to come back at any time, talk about your research or anything else, you're welcome back on the show anytime. You are a absolute delight. And I thank you so much for being on the show today because, like I said, I could tell right away when in Vegas, there's something that you have. There's a spark of something. You're a person that people are drawn to, and I felt a friendship with you right away. So thank you so much for being on because this has been a treat for me. So thank you
You're
very
too
much, Rebecca.
kind. This has been so enjoyable. I hope that I didn't ramble too much. I sometimes, when I talk about what I do, I just go off in 20 different directions because I really love what I do.
Well, and that's apparent, and I love that. That's what everybody's going to pick up on that, so that's good. Well, and to my listeners, guys, remember, as I say every week, life is not a destination. Life is a journey. So get out there and keep exploring. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And make sure that if you don't mind, please follow, like and subscribe and all that other fun stuff. And next week's episode, you're going to see the wrap up for season 1. And keep your eyes and ears open for that. So, guys, thank you so much. Take care, and God bless. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Mark in the Park, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your support helps more people discover the show. For show notes, updates, and future episodes, or to connect, head over to markinthepark21.com. Got a guest idea or a topic suggestion? Drop me a line at markintheparkpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And to all my listeners, this is Mark Milow reminding you, life is as much about the journey as the destination. So enjoy the sights and sounds along the way. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep exploring.